Is our time up first this afternoon. Sport Nova Scotia CEO Jamie Ferguson. He's stepped into a fuss over a decision by the Halifax School Board to stop 4 sports groups from using school gyms after hours, pointing to the damage they cause and saying the money could be better spent in the classroom. Well, the board appears to be backtracking somewhat. After a meeting with lacrosse officials yesterday, the board has agreed now to allow lacrosse teams back into the gyms. And Monday, Ferguson will meet with the school board to talk about, well, the other 3 sports, floor hockey, ringette, and archery. And Jamie joins us on the phone right now to tell us a little bit more. Mr. Ferguson, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Rick. How are you?
I'm very well, Jamie. It seems that the board is at least, well, in the case of the lacrosse teams, has, given up a bit and has allowed them back in. What kind of deal did they reach yesterday that will see this happen, or what do you know about it?
Well, I just saw a little bit of what had happened late last night, and so what I do know is that they are allowed back in. I'm not sure what all the details are around that, but certainly it's a very positive development. We're very pleased that they came to the table with lacrosse and had that initial discussion, and it's really something we can use and build on when we sit down with them on Monday. Yeah,
now what will be your pitch when you do sit down with the board on Monday? What will you be asking of them, or what will you be suggesting as a means of trying to get them to allow the other 3 leagues back into gyms?
Well, I think the key is, in the conversations we've had with them so far already, is just about making sure that the facilities are being used properly. So what we want to do is to work with them to make sure that we have the proper materials, they have the proper materials, so that they understand what our groups do when they're there. Our groups understand what they can do and can't do, also what types of equipment might be acceptable or not acceptable, so that there's a better understanding, a better awareness on both sides. And then also, as I mentioned before, that because if we deal within our own memberships and our own groups of our own provincial sport organizations, that we have a mechanism to monitor and make sure that things are being done as they're supposed to be done and that the agreements are adhered to.
Indeed. Doug Hadley from the board told us yesterday that in regards to floor hockey, for example, some players or teams playing floor hockey in school gyms after hours were actually using a puck instead of a ball.
Yeah, I know. And, from our perspective, it's in our members' best interest to make sure that the proper equipment and the proper behavior takes place when they have these facilities for 2 reasons, so that the facility remains usable and so that they're allowed to continue to use it. So really it's in everyone's best interest to make sure that we're aware, everyone knows what the conditions, the parameters are, and that they're taken care of and obeyed.
Yeah, how will this, or how would you propose this be policed? The teams themselves or some other method? What are you suggesting?
Well, I think in most of these instances, when you have our groups in there, they're in there with a leader, whether it be an instructor or coach. There's someone in there, and I think that's the best way to make sure that it happens. And I think that there has to be good information up front on both sides, so that the schools are aware of what type of activities are taking place and what type of equipment is going to be used, and then at the same time that the groups going in know what they're supposed to be able to do and not able to do. And so if that's done, I think it would eliminate the vast majority of any problems. If there are recurring problems or issues with a particular group, then our provincial sport organizations can work with the school board to make sure that those problems are taken care of.
Yeah, good. I hope you work things out. And I think that the fact that the board has changed its mind in regards to the lacrosse teams, that it will probably do the same. We would expect anyway come Monday. But this also highlights something else, Jamie. I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. The lack of facilities outside of school gyms, because I could think of maybe 3 that come to mind that are gymnasiums not connected to schools, and that certainly highlights a lack of these facilities in the city.
Yeah, Halifax is no different than the rest of the province and the rest of the country. There is a lack of sport and recreation infrastructure of all different types. And, that's the biggest barriers to participation in most cases are the cost and the facilities, the access and the availability of facilities. And so it's something that really has to be worked on, and it requires a collective effort of all 3 levels of government and of the public in terms of investing in these types of facilities, in terms of making sure that these facilities are included when there are new developments going up, all across the country. Halifax Regional Municipality, no different. And when you invest in a new subdivision or new neighborhoods or new developments, that recreation and sport facilities are seen as normal parts of these developments, just like other services are that get brought in when they do it. So if you're going to, put sewers and water into these places, then we should be looking for how are we going to make sure that there's accessible recreation and sport opportunities too.
Indeed, well said. And good luck on Monday then, sir. Appreciate the time.
Appreciate it. Thanks very much, Rick.
All right, bye-bye. Jamie Ferguson, who is Sport Nova Scotia's CEO, and again, he'll be meeting Monday with representatives of the school board to see if he can get the other teams, ringette, lacrosse. No, lacrosse is already back in. Ringette, floor hockey, and archery back into the school gyms. And again, I think this does highlight a lack of these facilities. I know there's a gym outside of the schools in Fall River. I believe there's one in South End Halifax, and of course the new Mainland Common Gym up there out in the Clayton Park area. That's another facility connected outside of schools. But other than that, none other come to mind. I'm sure there might be one or two others, but certainly highlights a lack of these kinds of facilities in our city. 3:15 is our time. So, New Page has some interest, it seems. Yesterday was the deadline. We'll hear what Mayor Billy Joe McLean has to say about who might be interested and when this thing might be resolved. That's when we come back.